So a couple of weeks back, Akon, the rapper, he was on Vlad TV and they were talking about China and Africa and their business dealings. So this was a very interesting clip that I took from that interview, and the basic gist of it was Akon was trying to explain that no, it's not true that China is buying up Africa and doing these shady business dealings with Africa. And he was basically saying that instead of saying that China is buying up Africa, it's really a bartering deal that's happening. So he was saying how China realized that, you know what, Africa has many natural resources, right? Africa is a potential big audience. They present new trade routes. They present a new market so they can export. So he was basically saying that China was bartering with Africa. So they were like, hey, listen, we need your resources so we can make these products, so we can keep our factories running. In exchange, we'll help you guys to develop infrastructure projects. So this was the gist of what was going on in this interview with Vlad. And one of the key points that Akon made in this clip about Africa and China and their business deals was that, like, no country in the world has done better for Africa than China. So once again, he was saying that no country in the world has done better things for Africa than China. This is me paraphrasing. I'm going to leave the link for this interview. Now, this is such an interesting interview for me because there is some truth to that statement. Right off the bat, I do have to admit that China has done plenty of infrastructure projects in Africa. That's a very real thing. Now, these infrastructure projects, they are a part of the Belt and Road Initiative. So in case you're not aware of what Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, is about, it's a vast intercontinental project that was started in 2013. And what it's trying to do is, and it was started by the Xi Jinping administration. He's the current president of China. And it's trying to improve the connectivity amongst Asia, Eastern Europe, Africa, and I believe even New Zealand is also signed on to this as well, even some countries in Southern America. And it's important to note that 40 out of 55 of the African states have signed on to China's Belt and Road Initiative. And the other countries that haven't signed on yet, that's for like political reasons. Like some countries have recognized Taiwan, which has angered China, and there's other reasons why some countries haven't signed on. And if I'm not mistaken, around 71 countries have signed up for the Belt and Road Initiative. And it started in 2013, and I think it's projected to cost around $1 trillion. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to create like a maritime connection. It's going to provide China with many new markets where they can do trading, right? And it also is going to provide them with more geopolitical strength, right? Because they're going to be able to have access to certain ports around like the Indian Ocean and things of that nature. And yeah, it is true that they have done a lot of positive things for Africa. Like a lot of their work is particularly like in the eastern part of Africa, and they've helped with like Tanzania, other countries, like building bridges, helping them just to bolster their infrastructure. And one of the reasons why Akon was favorable with his comments towards China is because they gave him $1 billion loan so that he can put solar panels. Now, in case you're not aware of what Akon is doing in Africa, he has brought electricity to around 400 million people in Africa. So he's doing amazing things. This whole video is not an indictment on Akon as a person. He's doing truly remarkable things. He's a great person. And he's even having his own city being built, which I think is going to be open in about 2026, but I digress. My issue with what he said in this clip was that he kind of glossed over the problems that we're seeing Black Africans go through in China right now. So in case you forgot, in my debut video, I talked about the current state of how African people are being treated in China. And as I referenced in that first video that I did, since the pandemic began, what we have seen is that African people have been kicked out of their apartments in various cities around China, like mainly Guangzhou, but this also was the case in like Wuhan, but it was mainly in Guangzhou that I focused on. They were just being kicked out of their apartments by their landlords and forced to live on the streets and things of that nature. They were barred from certain establishments like McDonald's that had signs like, oh, we're not allowing Africans into the stores. And it was just blatant discrimination towards African people that's going on in China. And the way Akon talked about it, he was making it seem like, oh, it's just propaganda. People are just blowing up one or two incidences and making it seem like, oh, this is how all African people who are living in China are being treated like. But he's wrong. This is not propaganda. This is really what's happening in China right now. This is what African people are going through right now. They reported also being arbitrarily tested, forcefully tested for COVID-19 because, They were worried about foreigners bringing in COVID-19. But the funny part is that most of the foreign people who brought COVID back into China were people who were from China that just left the country but came back. So it wasn't African people who were bringing COVID in. No. And yeah, the Chinese state officials will try to make it seem like, oh no, we are against discrimination all across the board, but that's a bunch of BS. That's not true. And Akon, it wasn't the right thing for him to just gloss over that. Another thing that we need to talk about with this whole Belt and Road Initiative is that many people are worried that this is just a debt trap diplomacy. So what I mean by that is that there's this fear that a lot of these countries, right? Especially we're seeing this with other neighboring Asian countries like Pakistan and even Sri Lanka, right? Some of these countries are reporting not even being able to pay back some of these loans that they're taking from Chinese companies in order to build their infrastructure projects. For example, the Sri Lankan government, they leased a port to a Chinese company for 99 years. Now, the reason why they leased this port to a Chinese company is because they were not able to pay off their loans that they received from this Chinese company. I think the loan was like $1 billion if I'm not mistaken. So they had to lease a port and other neighboring land to this same company for 99 years. So the issue with that is that a lot of these countries in the Belt Road Initiative, they're smaller and poorer countries. So on the surface, it might seem like, wow, China is loaning them all this money so that they can build bridges, airports, like in Sri Lanka, for example, and things of that nature. But what we're starting to see now with some of these countries like Tajikistan, Sri Lanka, like I mentioned, Pakistan, they owe like nearly 40% of their foreign debt to China. And they're having trouble paying it off. So what's going to happen is that China's going to use their leverage over these countries to get what they want, geopolitical advances, things of that nature, right? And now we're even seeing, like, for example, in Djibouti, in Africa, Eastern African country, they're using some of these ports as military bases as well too. So China is expanding their influence, right? It's really imperialism, but just in a very smart and savvy way. They're not just going all rah-rah and just, you know, American style, just ambushing a country that didn't attack them and just seizing their natural resources. No, China realized that, you know what? We can do this a smart way. We can tell them, hey, look, we can loan you billions of dollars and we can create all these projects in your countries and, you know, try to level out the playing field so you guys have a chance at expanding your economy and to uplift the living conditions of your people. But in the process, they're slowly taking over land. They're gaining access to crucial ports, like in the southern Indian Ocean and other areas. So yeah, that's my problem with what Akon was saying about China, is that yes, they have done some very great work with Africa, but make no mistake about it, China is, right now, what they're trying to do is to expand their influence. This is so obvious, and I just want you guys to make sure you're cognizant of that. And yeah, that's all I have to say about this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.